Right. Hey, aloha, love tribe. What's up? I have somebody here who you're like the Swiss Army knife of creativity. He is a Hollywood producer, an author, an investor, podcaster, and a wonderful friend. This is Terrence Michael. Welcome, Terrence.
Thank you. Thanks, Val, for having me.
It's totally great to have you here. Just before we hit record, I was telling you I'm on chapter 19 of Proof of Money, which is my new favorite Bitcoin book for orange pilling people. Uh, let's talk before we talk about the book. I want the audience to understand who you are. And I mean, I'm looking at your history here. You've made films for Sony, Universal, MGM. You're a producer. Like, how did you go from being this ultra creative person into getting into Bitcoin?
Um, so, in a nutshell, I've spent most of my life in Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
and from Hollywood moving into real estate. Real estate, in hindsight, being the preservation vehicle
Mm-hmm.
for all of the money and hard work that I did in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to be a real estate professional. I don't really care to be a landlord and deal with toilets, trash, and tenants. But I convinced myself that I love all of that. And I know you and I actually share similar backgrounds in
Mm-hmm.
those worlds, dealing with investors and syndicates and all the stuff that I never ever formally studied. Academically, I studied business, but I didn't know, am I going to sell vacuum cleaners? You got to do something with a business degree.
Yeah.
And I've always loved story, always loved story. And I think as human beings, we all love story. We all love the
Yeah.
hero's journey.
Yeah.
And I thought, how can I combine the two? So Hollywood, came knocking. And with my business experience, I just set up a production company, literally still in college. So I
Wow.
think I got lucky, or I was in the right place at the right time, or maybe it was a combination of hard work. But I started producing big studio movies the minute I stepped out of college. Like I was right out, and there I was doing big studio movies. So my career sort of went backwards because I didn't work my way up as like a PA and a coordinator and all that stuff. I just started out as a producer. I raised the money and I said, let me figure this out. So I used my business skills, but I wanted to know how to tell story. I wanted to know how to be creative. Because of that, I got burned out really quickly. I
Mm.
semi-retired at age 30 and just skateboarded and hung around the beach. And after 2 weeks of that, I was like, this, there's more to life, and retirement isn't what everyone says it is, right? So I've since changed my definition of retirement, and that's really just doing what you want to do, when you want to do it, for who you want to do it, etc. And I never thought about what my purpose was. I never thought about what is life supposed to look like to be fulfilling. But I knew that if I wanted to have choices and I wanted to have freedom and peace, that I needed to somehow keep the money that I had made.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw what had happened to my friends, and in Hollywood, it happens to everybody. Everyone makes a lot of money, but they also lose it very fast. And we also go through these long dry spells. Recently we've had a strike. There's also these hiatuses. Shows get canceled. Movies don't get sequels. And so it's like sort of easy come, easy go. And Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
can care less who you are or what you've done. As long as the next person comes into town, great. That's what we want to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so I went into real estate, which made sense to me. And because it was very tangible and I could work with my hands and I could see something productive right away, it was helpful. In Hollywood, so many things are cerebral and conceptual, and you're constantly pitching. There's so much R&D, so many scripts and projects you develop never get made, and it's very disheartening. And
Mm-hmm.
the average project in Hollywood, if it gets made, takes 7 years to get made. That's just the average. It's from the time you find the book to get the rights, going through all these drafts, finally gets made. And even if I started to make a movie today, it's going to be 2.5 years before you see it because of post-production and marketing and finding the right distribution schedule, who you're up against, what weekend, blah, blah, blah. So real estate, I fell in love with that. Was mining fiat without realizing that's what I was doing, making as much US dollars as I can. And nothing against that. I love to work hard. I love to try to work smart. I love to optimize my skills. How can I leverage what I know to do more? And that's why I started writing. I started writing about everything that I learned. My first book was writing about what I learned in Hollywood. My second book was writing about what I learned in real estate. And then my third book about what I learned in Bitcoin. But I found Bitcoin because, again, having found success early in life and then wondering what I wanted to do with it afterwards, I started to think about time. And time has always been really interesting to me, an interesting theme and subject. And, because of course our time is limited on this earth. How much time do we have? How can we extend time, or how do we just improve our time? And, you start to put things in the life is too short bucket, right? That's kind of like an easy hack for probably a lot of people, but it is for me whether it's having decision fatigue. You might notice looking at me, and people, I don't know, I've been on 20 podcasts now. I always wear the same blue shirt. Now, it's not the exact same shirt, but I have a closet full of 20 blue shirts because when I wake up in the morning, I don't want to use my fresh brain figuring out what to pick out and what to wear. So it's like I just have a uniform and I just pretty much wear the same thing every day. And so Bitcoin became that sort of decision and fatigue, and that way for me to really honor my time and think about time in a way that everything else sort of corrupted my time or took away from my time. Even if it was something I enjoyed, it's just the process of knowing, like back to Hollywood, that I'm going to have to, run around town and take 30 meetings just to try to raise some money or try to find distribution. Or in real estate, how many bad contractors or day laborers or whatever am I going through? How many intermediaries with the brokers and the escrow agents and the realtors and whatnot, just to transfer my value from this property to this property, and it debasing and diluting 10% due to fees and whatnot. All the things that we kind of know as Bitcoiners, but it's like once I found Bitcoin, I thought, this is it. This is something that can honor my time, help me think about my time in a more holistic way, where I really pay attention to what time means. Because now I'm pulling out a tape measure and saying, okay, 12 inches is 12 inches, and no one else is going to change that. This isn't going to become 14 inches, which is going to become 18 inches, or even taking meetings. People that know me really well know that I'm a stickler to punctuality. And I hate that I'm this way. I've lost some friendships over it, but it's like, let's say you have 5 people joining you for a meeting and all 5 of them are 10 minutes late. Well, that just stole 50 minutes from me. I mean, in man hour, 50 man hours of people that they didn't steal it from me, but it stole 50 man hour, 50 minutes of man hours. So with Bitcoin, where in a sense the measuring tool is the same for all of us. It helps. It makes us aware of how valuable time is. So I'm sort of jumping all over the place. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's how I got to Bitcoin, from Hollywood to real estate to Bitcoin. And now I still do Hollywood. I love Hollywood. I still do real estate. I love real estate. I just do a lot less of those. And I try to see how those can influence Bitcoin or vice versa, how Bitcoin can help fix the broken problems in real estate or in Hollywood, and how I can help reveal to those people that there's a better ledger, there's a better tool that can honor what I think everyone's trying to do but doesn't realize it, because we've been pre-programmed and brainwashed so much into how this game of life is supposed to be played. And, we all grew up with this game of life and, make more money. It's an external scorecard. Get higher titles, make more money, get higher titles, make more money. Right. But all the expenses are just getting more and more and more. And what do the titles mean? Like, Valerie, if I told you more than half of the battles in Hollywood, it's like when you sit down to enjoy a movie, you have no idea, how much fighting is going on in the background over, am I an executive producer or a co-executive producer? Is this person a field producer or supervising post producer? Is this guy, and to the viewer, when they see, these 100 credits, most of them don't even know, right? Okay, you're one of the producers. But in Hollywood, we know there's like 15 levels of producers and they're fighting like crazy, and they'll even lower their fees and sometimes reduce their fees by half just to get a slightly higher credit. Or vice versa, the people that are smart will say, great, bump me down here and give me more money. So when you have for people that know, and you have a transparent and honest system like Bitcoin that just reveals everything, no one's hiding everything, it's egalitarian and it's fair, it's amazing. And of course, the spoils are going to go to those who work the most. It's like it's equal opportunity, but it's not equal outcome, as all proof of work should be. It's right. Like you, Valerie, you're working hard on your podcast, you're working hard on your brand, you do all these amazing things. Those things should go to you, not to someone else who's just like, Daddy, give me some money and set up, my brand and get me a logo and a brand manager and an agent, blah, blah, blah. It's like that might start at the very beginning, but eventually the proof of work is going to come through, right? Your audience and your consumers are going to either like your content or not.
And let me ask you this, Terence, like, coming into this space and obviously, high time preference versus low time preference mindset. And that's something that's definitely shifted for me as I became a Bitcoin, more aware of Bitcoin and how it works. And certainly the whole community around this in Hollywood, right? Like you've got obviously all these folks who are getting, chunks of cash quickly, and then obviously these dry spells. What do you see is, because my mind is always thinking of scale. Like, how can we scale adoption, fast, but with intention? Like what happened obviously down in El Salvador was very fast, but the citizens didn't get educated at the same level of that implementation. So I think, obviously lessons learned. It was great, but we still have to do some education. So it's not just like bang you over the head with Bitcoin and do a fast adoption just for the sake of it. If people don't know how to use it, what it means for them, you're not really getting that like pure adoption, right? And so with Hollywood and the whole entertainment industry, so whether it's music or film or TV, what do you feel like? Do we have any dominoes that are there where we can like address certain folks who are like ripe for Bitcoin adoption, who could maybe get their audiences dominoed in a way that will scale, but will also still have that, okay, it's going to take a little time to learn. Like, are there any people in Hollywood, whether that's the studios, whether it's the actors or the talent, et cetera, or the investors, who are like starting to see the big problem with fiat and how everything's disintegrating, below their feet, that are like, yeah, these guys are ready. Like, do you have anything on the horizon where you're like, cool, I'm going to go orange pill this, SAG or whatever,
Yeah. Look, it's a problem. But, as you know, in the fiat world, the problem is that as much as everyone sees how much the money leaks, all of the actors, the directors, the studios, even the investors, everybody sees how much it leaks, to the point where, what's built in on the returns is fairly high percentages, or promotes, or whatever you want to call it, that people need to get back just for them to considering break even, right? It's like, I can't just get, my 10 million back that I give you as an investor. I need my 10 million plus 25%. And that's just even, right? So they know that it leaks, that money is worth less in the future because it takes more units to buy the same things. The problem is everything just keeps rising so fast. Like we are continuing to go along with the inflation. Like if I do a TV show and it's whatever, 800,000 an episode, as soon as it gets picked up for the second one, we're not like, great, give us 800,000 an episode again. It's no, give us 900,000 an episode. Now, do I necessarily make more money, or does every single crew and staff member ask for more because now we want them back? And in this essence, maybe they should get more because they've done the work. They can now work harder. They can work smarter. They know the content. Everyone's happy, blah, blah, blah. But we just keep raising and nothing really trickles down into everyone preserving their hard work in a better way. It's just really to keep up. So,
but what's the obstacle though? What do you think is the obstacle for, any of these players to start understanding that Bitcoin is the solution? Do we need to get your book in their hands? Do we need to have meetups? Do we need to have conferences that are geared for creatives?
No, it's a great question. So first of all, that's the pre-programmed world that we live in, and Hollywood is very much a part of that, and Hollywood contributes to that, because many of the stories we tell is about the person that needs to improve their life because they're coming from a broken relationship. That, you know, it's the architect who just got fired, right? It's the intern trying to work their way up in a design firm, whatever it is. We promote to the viewers that, hey, this is a good story because this person now is making more money, right? Like that's how it usually ends. Yes. So what I'm struggling to answer because there's so many different approaches, but yes, we need to educate. The problem is, so like we know 2022 was a very bad year for crypto, not for Bitcoin. Bitcoin could care less. It's just a calculator. But it was really bad because of these centralized finance scams and exchanges like FTX and Celsius, Sam Bankman-Fried. Hollywood associates Bitcoin with that. And because certain actors, sports figures, names, Tom Brady, et cetera, attached their names to these things, they're scared to come out. Like I personally know some fairly high level, A-level actors that are very much into Bitcoin, but they don't want to come out and say they are. They don't want to talk about it just because of the association. And it actually reminds me not long ago when actors were afraid to come out as gay, which is silly because now they've been completely embraced.
Yeah.
And that's my hope, actually. My hope is that it's not Ellen DeGeneres getting her TV show canceled because she came out as gay. That eventually people will say, no, Bitcoin is this fair and amazing money. They also are, I mean, fortunately, the narrative is changing right now, at least in the short term, but they also have associated Bitcoin's mining process of how we get Bitcoin with negative for the planet, with negativity for the planet, with global warming, with climate change.
Let's
and
talk
we
about
know
that.
that's just not true.
Yeah, it's nonsense. And
So that's one way in, by the way. Sorry. So that's one way in that I'm trying to concentrate on, is I'm trying to talk to these people. There's so many people in Hollywood are also in the health and wellness space. And it's like, okay, great. Let's talk about the planet. Let's talk about what Bitcoin can do for the planet. So that's just another way in.
I think so. And so let's unpack that a little bit, because I want to keep reminding everybody who listens to these episodes, because I know everyone doesn't listen to every single episode. Like, what's the deal? What's the benefit of Bitcoin mining for methane and for climate change and for the energy solutions to transition into a more sustainable grid? And so I'm just curious.
Okay.
Let's talk about that, because you have a great chapter in your book about that.
Yeah. So first of all, it's like the first thing that people don't understand is that Bitcoin mining does not emit any gases at all. There's nothing pollutive. And that's what, at least in Hollywood, everyone thought. They picture these big smokestacks and all these burning and whirring machines. And it really is just a tea kettle. It's a hair dryer. It's a shoebox sized computer that gives off heat, which in itself is another great energy use, right? People are now heating their homes and heating pools, and there's going to be many, many more. You literally can buy space heaters that are mining Bitcoin. So that's the first part that people need to understand. There's no CO2, there's no methane, there's nothing given off. The second thing they understand is, yes, it does use a lot of energy, just like all human prosperity uses a lot of energy. Every country that anyone would want to live in, they want to live in because it uses more energy. But the amount of energy that it uses, as high as and as large as it is still less than 0.1% of all the energy that is being consumed by the entire world. That amount is devoted to Bitcoin. So not only is it a rounding error of a fraction of the amount of energy it uses, of the energy it uses, it can't even afford to use new energy. No one can afford to really plug into the wall and mine Bitcoin. They can, but they're not going to be profitable and they won't be doing it for long. They need to find cheap energy. And right now, the best way to find cheap energy is to take the energy that no one can access, that no one wants, that people throw away, and they'll take it in any form. And it's like there's, the analogy of of the donut shop. And, you picture a donut shop where, donuts are the energy. And, the donut shop owner wants to make as many donuts as he can sell. But if he makes too few, he's going to lose customers when people are lined up and they're going to go elsewhere because there aren't enough. And if he makes too many, he's wasting all his resources and his electricity and his batter and his frying machines, and he has to toss them out. Well, Bitcoin miners will come to that donut shop and say, look, we will buy as many donuts as you can make. As soon as people are lined up and paying retail rates, we'll step off. And if at the end of the day you've made too many and they've fallen on the ground, they're crumbled and they're smushed and stale, we'll still take them. And that's the thing that climate activists don't realize, because all they think is that anyone who needs energy, the energy has to come to them, which is expensive to bring energy to people. Mm-hmm. But Bitcoin mining can go to wherever the source is, because they can go anywhere. They're location agnostic. And so they can go under waterfalls and next to volcanoes and in sun-barren plains and where the wind is, and any place where people don't even want to live, they will go. So when you tell people like, look, energy is all around us. It's we can't make more, we can't lose more. It's just moving around the earth with the climate and with natural changes. Miners can go find where it is, wherever people are. And if people are there, great, they'll step back. So we try to say, look, first of all, it's using very little energy. Second, it takes the discarded, orphaned, wasted energy that no one else can use or no one else wants. And third, it can additionally go to other energy providers and consumers and cap off or eliminate all of the waste that they are kicking off. Because to generate energy through coal or oil or gas, it gives off waste. It gives off CO2. Now, setting aside the argument of whether our planet actually needs CO2, we don't want to freeze to death and we want plants to grow and things like that. So setting aside that argument, regardless of what you believe, if you believe that it's better to have less of that, well, Bitcoin mining is a tool that can remove that. And not only can it remove CO2, another thing that a lot of people don't talk about is methane, which is 84 times more pollutive than CO2. So it's like, forget about the CO2 argument for a second, right? So like if CO2 is a car driving towards a cliff, at 1 mile an hour, methane is another car, but driving 84 miles an hour. Like, which car should we stop from driving off that cliff? So, Bitcoin miners can go straight to farms, straight to agricultural centers, straight to dairy farms, straight to landfills. We've got over 3,000 landfills just sitting here in the US that are just emitting methane straight into the air. So, that's a whole nother conversation about how much broken money encourages us to consume too much, buy too much, put it in storage. It ends up in the landfill. And all of that stuff is just emitting methane. We can cap that because that methane we can ignite. We just put a little miner down there. We ignite it. The heat or the steam turns a little propeller. That propeller turns a magnet that's on a coil, and electricity goes straight to our mining machine, and we're mining Bitcoin. No other energy consumer can do that. Rather, we have to transmit that electricity at, $2 million per mile to get it 200 miles over to populations and to people. So that's another big idea where it's like, pretend you don't even care about broken money. You're just so fiat rich, you don't even care, but you do care about the planet, or you do think that there's too many greenhouse gases going into the air. Bitcoin miners can, who cares that we just want to honor our ledger? We just want to keep our money secure with this electricity. Who cares? We can reduce methane, all over the world just by mining.
Yeah. And if nothing else, if that's one thing I really want people to get who are, all of us tree huggers and nature lovers, it's like, this is a good thing. We need this. And what other, like you said, what other energy consumer can go out there and go on site and scoop up stranded energy? There's none. It's not cost effective for any other consumer to do that, but it's cost effective and profitable for Bitcoin miners to do so. And so it's there's just so many tentacles, I think, that I really want to help people get. And I think some of the biggest obstacles I hear in my community are, of course, it's uses too much energy, it's bad for the earth, etc. So it's like we have to really make sure that folks understand, why we need this, and why this is a great solution. And so let's talk about and I haven't gotten to the last two chapters. You said those are going to be about peace and humans and all this. Do you think, obviously the name of this podcast is Bitcoin for Peace, because I do believe that Bitcoin is a tool for peace, and it helps people and planet and prosperity, those three ingredients to cause a more peaceful planet. And so how do you see Bitcoin as a potential tool for peace, to cause peace on our planet?
I think it causes, in a nutshell, it's because money is the number one reason that people don't honor their preferences and their choices.
Oh, I love it. Keep going.
Whether it's in relationships, whether it's in diet, whether it's in career choices, and the entire culture that we've seen within the last 5-10 years. I'm guilty of this as well in promoting grinding and side hustles and, how to make more money and do this, do that. Bitcoin, when people switch to Bitcoin, they accept an alternate money system. We're not going to necessarily fix the broken one, but we accept an alternate one that even if the entire world doesn't want to go there, but you do, you turn your world into a system of truth and a system of honor. Because I like to explain it in simple terms like this. It's like if I'm a house painter and I'm going to go paint a house, and whatever I make that day, at the end of the day, it's like I have to, that money that I made has to pay for my 3 meals that day, whatever my proportionate consumption is of, energy at the house, gas and electricity and all of that, and pay for kids and pay for education and bills and whatever. So let's say in an 8-hour day, I'm able to pay my daily burn of that in, 5 hours of work. But the other 3 hours is just extra because I've worked hard as a painter. Well, those extra 3 hours I can't store anywhere, and they're just going to deplete because of inflation. Eventually, why would I work those extra 3 hours? So I'm either going to only work 5 hours, or if my boss says, well, you have to work 8 hours, I'm just going to slow down. And I'm going to make those 8 hours really 5 hours of work, but I'm going to be taking 8 hours. So now I'm wasting more time, right? So we have limited time, and now I'm just wasting it because I'm playing this game with my boss. Like, how many people all over the world are playing games with their boss, looking at the clock, when can I leave, on their computer, and then, they're on Facebook or Twitter or whatever when they should be doing something. But, they're clock watchers, and they have to be. So if Bitcoin can help you retain exactly what you work for, you'll be encouraged to work harder, because now you're not going to have to paint houses as long, because I can save those 3 hours. Those 3 hours that I saved in that house painting example, in theory, I should be able to go 22 years into the future, pull out those 3 hours, and whatever those 3 hours earned me, if that equaled this piece of bread and this cereal box and whatever, it should give me that 22 years later. But we've never lived in that world ever that I can think of. Maybe before 1971, but I don't know. So that brings peace to people. It's hard for people to see because we've never had it, but it brings peace to people, because if I could work and earn money and know that I don't have to consume now because it's not melting, know that I don't have to buy something quick because, this is on sale, and it's just going to get more expensive later. I mean, how many people want houses and they're told, get it now. It's just going to get more expensive next year, and it's just going to get more expensive the year after that. And that's true when you price it in fiat, because those units keep getting higher. But it's not true when you price it in Bitcoin, at least over a long-term time frame, like 4 to 5 years plus. So
what about, let's talk about CBDCs, because CBDCs are obviously like a nightmare. And in your book, you were talking about China and they're basically social credit scores in action where they can shut you down. And, that's what's on the horizon, I think, here for all of these countries that are going to start, their currencies are failing. And so it's a mass surveillance, and it's mass population, like behavior control. So a lot of people don't understand what a CBDC is and why, to me, they are, the ultimate form of slavery, which is not a peaceful way of being on planet Earth if you are enslaved to a central authority. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, they're the ultimate form because so just about everybody who is not in like this walled garden of privilege that we have here in the US, most people of the global south and developing countries, their money inflates so much they'll go from 1 peso to 600 pesos overnight, from 1 pango to 100 million pango. They wake up and their money's redenominated into new denominations. So we've never had that here. We've always had the $1 bill, the $5, the 20, the $100 bill, whatever. The version for us for that is CBDCs, because there could be a day where it's like, hey, everybody, turn in $100 to your bank and you're going to get one CBDC. Turn in 1,000, you got 10 CBDCs. That's the way that we would redenominate, just like as they always have when they restamped the dinar, or they clipped coins. So on one hand, it's a way for a reset, and the government needs a reset, right? We're over $34 trillion in debt right now. There's no way we can pay any of that off. They can't do it via taxes because they won't be hired. So it's going to be inflation, inflation, inflation. Yeah. But the CBDC, because it's programmable and because it's virtual, suddenly, think back to COVID when we had to stay in our houses, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I know you're smiling because you get this so much, and it's like, stay in this zone. It's going to be like the Hunger Games. You can't spend beyond this zip code. You've gone too far. You're going to transmit the disease from this zone to that zone. Yep. So they'll turn off the CBDCs. They didn't like how you voted. Yep. You're involved in some lawsuit. Look what happened to the truckers in Canada. Look what happened to the Russia-Ukraine war. Like with CBDCs, it gives them so much control. Now, some might say, oh, maybe this is a good thing. I don't care. Lots of people are completely psyoped. Oh, I don't have to worry about taxes. Come tax time, just push a button. Because the CBDC already knows what you spent on. They already know what you earned and spent. So what taxes are there to do? But, you have to ask yourself, what is freedom? Do you believe that, do you understand the difference between secrecy and privacy? Like, do you want people to know what you're spending your money on? Do you want there to be limits? Like many countries have this, right? Lebanon has shut down banks. Nigeria, I think, was limiting how much people could spend per day. The US dollar is actually illegal in numerous countries. 15 of the 55 countries in Africa are still under the oppression of the France, of the CFA franc. And we don't see any of that here. So for us, a CBDC, that just sounds digital. Well, don't we already have digital? We have Venmo. Our banks are digital. Mm-hmm. Yes, but those aren't smart contracts, and they can't be programmed. And that's, and even though I get it, from a VC innovative standpoint, like, oh, wow, how amazing you can program a CBDC. So say you're going to buy a house for $1 million, and you just program these CBDCs, and it transfers the name and the ownership and the title, and there it is on the quote unquote blockchain. I get that. But it's all centralized. That's the problem with CBDCs. Mm-hmm. And it's all controlled by the government. The government isn't supposed to control our money. They're not supposed to be the overseer or god of our value, right? So if you ask yourself, what is money? Well, if money is just my past excess contribution to society, what I have done, and I'm just trying to hold it in something so I could use it later, why is the government holding it to permission for me and to surveil and to tell me when I can use it and to, to delay it for me and where I can, So yeah, it's a huge problem. Now, personally, this might be unpopular. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't think the U.S. government can figure it out, but we still should get the word out and fight against it.
Do you think, though, I mean, I kind of look at COVID as a testing ground for them when they were doing all the little UBI, here's your stimmy checks, right? And so, I don't know, in my mind, I'm in the like, was this their little like, let's just sprinkle this out here and see how everybody reacts? And obviously people think, oh, goody, I got $2,000. But in the meantime, we printed what, 6 billion or 6 trillion? Excuse me. How much
Yeah,
did we print?
6.2 trillion. So
Yeah.
we printed over 40% of our entire
Yeah.
monetary supply in 2 months.
That's why that was my thing about it. Was between that happening, and then the truckers, and then Alex Gladstein, and listening to him. Those are my three, like, what the hell is going on out here? What have I not been paying attention to for
Well, and I think that the great thing
happened?
about COVID, as terrible as that was, is that it did wake people up to inflation, because everyone was like, oh my God, these stimmies. I think people that were on unemployment were getting 600 a week for like close to a year.
Wow.
Lots of people did these PPP loans. I have friends that did these PPP loans, taking out 6 figures, and they'd be texting me going, oh my God, I just got 120 grand. I'm like, well, what did you do? They're like, I didn't do anything. I pushed a few buttons online,
Oh
right?
God.
Like tons of money, right? And so they were so excited. They were buying all kinds of stuff. 2 years later, now they're complaining, like, why is everything so expensive? And now I have these huge, SBA loans that I have to pay back. And so now they're under debt and everything's more expensive. And if
Yeah.
they could, because I've asked them, they would go back and push a button and not have taken that money, but not inflate the supply. But it's like, I mean, I don't know what a beer costs over by you, Valerie, but I used to be able to go get a beer for $5-6. Beers are like over $10 here in LA.
Oh my
What
God.
for? Yeah, no, it's stupid. So
Yeah, it's definitely, we're short-sighted humans, a lot of us. And I think, again, we've shifted as Bitcoiners to think like, you know, oh, this is going to cost $10 for my beer. Well, how much Bitcoin can I get for that? And you're just like, I don't really need that beer. Or do I
right,
need to go to Starbucks, or can I go make coffee at home? Or all the things, like, our minds start thinking, because we
the
really do
incentive to
understand.
save over spend, right, to create over consume, and to plan rather than gamble.
Yeah, it really is. Like, my consumption model has definitely come under a lot more scrutiny since becoming a bit, learning about Bitcoin, because it's really like, oh wow, this is something that actually might 10x, and it has
Yes.
10x, repeatedly.
Well,
And
in
so
retrospect, yeah, you get to see what something costs. That's the thing, because as Bitcoiners, we want to encourage this circular economy of spending Bitcoin, but at the same time, suddenly you look back, you're like, oh, what did I just spend on, that salad bowl? Now that salad bowl's $200 if I price it in USD.
I know it's really cool. I liked your example of how much an iPhone cost, back when Bitcoin was first, and it keeps going, in Bitcoin denomination. So I think that's something. I think visually, I'm a total visual learner. So the more I can see things, I mean, I obviously listen to stuff all the time, but like, when I can see, like, wow, this is how this goes, it sort of, something clicks. And so I think the more types of content, and the more things, like just that specific example, how many ways can we put it out there to the different audiences that we have, so that they understand,
Yeah.
whether it's a little video clip, whether it's a graph, whether it's a little slideshow, whatever it is. And I think, you're obviously a prolific content creator, and on many levels, how are you finding your audience receiving your book? Like, this is such,
Um,
it's seriously, like, I mean it. Like, I love
yeah.
this book so much. I can't wait for
Mm.
everybody to read it. I'm so impressed and so excited. And you've really created such a great contribution to the education for people who are Bitcoiners and who are brand new to it. It's really, really well done. I love it. Love it.
Oh,
So
well,
thank
thank you so much. That means a
you.
lot to me coming from you, because I know you've read so much. I mean, I don't know. When I wrote it, I think I wrote it for me, because I
Yeah.
know there's so many Bitcoin books out there, and I was really worried that there was just really no need for it. And it was just an echo chamber of saying the same thing. But, I'd heard some people that I respected in the Bitcoin space say, no, we need more gateways. We need more
Yep.
doorways. People are always coming in. So I just said, whatever. And it was helpful for me, because there were a couple things that I didn't fully understand. And as you know, when you write, you often write for yourself. So it synthesized those thoughts for me, and it forced me to do the research rather than just parrot something I had heard. Um,
What was a
so the
big,
book,
like, what was a big thing that you've, like, kind of got in, and got more clear on? Like, what was an example of that?
um, it was the mining process. I
Mhm.
didn't really understand that it's just an arbitrary contest, and we're all rolling dice and nothing more. And you can tell when you read my book that that's what I needed to learn the most, because I spread it out over 3 chapters, adopting the characters from Friends to help explain it. And I
Mhm.
had to do that for myself. Um, and not everyone needs to know that, but that helped me realize just how honest the system is, because, even a bad actor that wants to come in and try to alter or corrupt the network can't. They have to roll the same dice that we do. And it's just a game, and we're all rolling dice. So that was hard to understand. But to get back to your question, it was tough for me because I specifically wrote and released the book during one of our worst bear markets ever. And I knew I was doing that, but I really took it to heart when everyone said, build during the bear, build during the bear. And I
Mhm.
wanted to contribute somehow. I didn't know how. I was just an anon on Twitter. I was reading and listening to everything. I never responded, replied, liked anything. I had 6 followers. And I said, I'm just going to put my head down, write this book, start thinking in metaphor, start thinking in story. What are ways
Mhm.
to orange pill people? What are good ways to explain? And I kept thinking of people like, my mom and like my friends that were buying Dogecoin. It's like, how do I get the word out there? I knew, because I had written 2 books before, I knew that this wasn't going to do nearly as well as those, but I didn't care. To me, it was just so much more important. And it hasn't sold nearly, like my real estate book is like 1,000x this. Like it just went through the roof. But I, the people that find it, the personal letters that I get, the emails and that I get are incredible. I've never gotten those types of emails with any of my other books. So
Wow.
that's made it all worth it. So I think it'll get out there, but I also know there's other great books. And honestly, I don't care. I want people to find the book that speaks to them. And there's new books constantly coming out. Mine was sitting on the number 1 in 2 categories, in banks and monetary assets or whatever, for a while. And then this girl, I don't know, someone named Lynn Alden wrote a book, and then
Oh.
mine went away. Um,
Lynn, oh my God, the brain
yeah,
over here. Um, it's
but it's
such an
okay.
interesting, because I'm listening
Yeah.
to that book right now, and and I have been able to get through your book a lot faster because I knew I was going to get to interview you right now, and I mean, 2 totally different styles, right?
Yes.
And well needed, right? Like there's people who are going to just completely go flock to Lynn because that's how their brains are wired, and there's folks that are going to be like, "Oh my God, thanks, Terrence. Like this is exactly how I needed it. I needed to know how Rachel was doing this and Phoebe and all that." Like we do. I'm an analogizer, so I think in terms of metaphors and analogies, and it's easier to, for some people, it's easier to process, you know, something that's seemingly difficult in that format versus like, here's my charts and here's the, like you still
Yeah.
do that, but it's easier sometimes. So it's really well needed. Um, so what's on the horizon? What do you got in your sleeve, up your sleeves right now?
Well, now I've aligned with this place called the Bitcoin Advisor, which is
Nice.
really great. There's a bunch of us, Cedric Youngelman and Luke Broyles, and we're international. We're all over the world, and our purpose is just to get people's Bitcoin off exchanges.
Love it.
And we just educate people on how best to self-custody. And
Mm-hmm.
specifically, if they want to go this far, we take them into multi-signature,
Mm-hmm.
collaborative custody if they wish. We're completely company agnostic. We'll teach them about Swan or Unchained or Casa or Nunchuck, or any system that they want to use. But the key is, hold your own keys and
Yeah.
have it done in a way where your inheritance solutions are secure, that you'll get Bitcoin to the right people when you die. And, we do time locking. Um, we, do, we basically hold their hand, sort of a white glove service, and how best to custody. And if people don't want to pay, they don't have to pay. Like, they can rip us off, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but we're all happy to educate everyone that works at the Bitcoin Advisor. I think there's like 20 or 25 of us right now.
Nice.
Um, people can book with us. We'll talk with them. And if they want to use our services, which would be multi-custodial collaborative, then great, where we hold a key, they can hold 2 keys, or they can hold a key, and then Unchained can hold a key, or Swan, or whoever. Um, then fantastic, they can do that. But if not, they can just take the information and go do it on their own. But a lot of people, and this is where the world is going to be going, don't want to learn about that, and that scares them. So we
Mhm.
do deal a lot with high net worth individuals, with corporations, with institutions. But just the other day, I dealt with someone that just bought their first $500, and I spent just as much time with them as I did with someone who had 200 Bitcoin to secure. So
What do you think about like KYC versus no KYC for people for the future? Because obviously, like working with whether you're with Unchained or Swan or any of these services, it's all KYC. Like, what do you feel like there's a need for both, like to learn both, and so that you're kind of protected if the government starts to get all what is it, 6102 order? Is that it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well, Order 6102 is back in 1934 when the government outlawed gold. But the reality is that they never went knocking door to door to people. Anyone that had gold in their own possession kept the gold. It was mostly a bank conversion thing,
mhm.
and that's what people forget. And the same is with Bitcoin, and I know we have some legislation coming down or being proposed. I don't think it'll be passed, but we absolutely should fight it. That
Yeah.
is saying that we shouldn't self-custody our Bitcoin. But no one's going to knock on our door. No one can take math away from us. If we're just storing words or math in our head, good luck taking our Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. I am probably This is probably less popular than a lot of Bitcoiners, but I'm not worried about the KYC thing because it's like with my Bitcoin, I spend my Bitcoin, I use my Bitcoin for things that I need in real life. And to do that, I need to come off and I need to use an exchange to get into fiat. I get it. If you're a prepper, if you're a person that owns a bunch of guns and digs gold in your backyard, great. Do the non KYC. That it's available for everyone. The great thing is that Bitcoin is a tool and we can all use it differently in
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those non KYC people, but I get it. I get why some people need that and want that.
Yeah, I do too. I'm obviously, and I think too, obviously we're forward facing people. We're not anons. So we're clearly like promoting
Right.
Bitcoin. So people will, if they ever wanted to get all uh, China on us, they'll know who we
Well, and I
are.
used to be an anon, but I was thinking, if I'm educating and promoting Bitcoin, that I don't know that sends the right message to noobs and regular people that I have
Yeah.
to hide. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think about obviously all the folks who are out there currently and have been before us who are not anon. And I'm kind of like, well, I'm gonna take one for the team too. Like
Yeah.
you could go be a non, which is totally fine. Ultra
Absolutely.
respect, but for some of us, yeah. And I think obviously depends on your audience, right? Like
Sure.
maybe some younger folks will be like, who cares? I don't care if you're an anon, but us geezers,
Yes.
we want to
Yes.
know who the hell we're talking
Absolutely.
to. That's amazing. Do you have any? So I'm so excited about the Bitcoin Advisor. I didn't know that that's what you guys did over there. So that's great. I might have some business to send your way.
Yeah.
That seriously. The what about any creative stuff? You've got any? I know when we were in LA, you were talking about a possible big productions that you were going to be thinking
Yes.
about.
Well, yes. So, yeah, on the movie side, I still like to make movies, and if I can, I would like all of those or as many as possible to lean towards and influence people into Bitcoin narratives. Some of it I think just needs to be adjacent. We've had many movies that have been very close. We've had TV shows like Mr. Robot, and we've had
Yeah.
A Beautiful Mind and The Big Short and The Matrix and things that have been really close but haven't really talked about Bitcoin. I don't think the world's ready for just a Bitcoin movie,
Right.
but maybe they're ready for a movie about a person or persons, that's maybe a period piece working on computers and cryptography. And oh, look what they came up with. Or did they come up with it? Who came up with it? Is it a mystery? Is it a thriller? Does it involve the CIA, the NSA? And what kind of gift did they give to the world? So I think we like those movies. I love movies like The Social Network, and it's like, okay, that was Facebook. Who created Facebook? Well, who knows? But to me, there's just a huge mystery, and audiences love origin stories. They love mysteries. So I'm talking to a lot of people, some of the people that you and I know, and maybe there'll be several versions eventually down the line. I think someone else in Hollywood might even tackle some of those before me, but I don't know that they'll be right. Like I know that the Bitcoin Billionaires movie is coming out, which is the sequel to The Social Network, which
Cool.
involves the Winklevi twin and how
Mm-hmm.
they first found Bitcoin, which is how I got orange pilled. Interestingly, because now I would never recommend that book to people over all these other incredible Bitcoin books, but that
Right.
was a book about story.
Yeah.
And I was like fascinated and like, oh my God, I have to get Bitcoin. This is incredible. If these two, good looking rower rich dudes, right, the fiat mind should be
Mm-hmm.
buying Bitcoin, I should be buying Bitcoin, right? And I think that there's going to be the SBF movie, right? Michael Lewis has already sold
Mm-hmm.
the screenplay rights to his book. I'm not sure who's writing that yet, but so, it's going to be adjacent, but I don't know that's going to be in a good light in the SBF or FTX,
Yeah, I know. Because what I want to see in a film, I mean, obviously we're working on Satoshi the Cyber Opera, which I'm curious if that story should go get made into a movie. Because my mind, I was talking to somebody about it yesterday, and obviously the original way we were thinking was, okay, this is going to go to festivals and all these big concerts and all this stuff all over the world, but like the attention span of people at those venues, it's like, okay, there's 10 stages going on all at the same time. So people are bouncing around like crickets, so you're not there for the entire storyline necessarily. You might come in halfway or want to leave, whatever. So you're not getting the message, you're not getting the story. And so I've been rethinking, like, would this be more of an appropriate thing to turn into a film or something where it's
Yeah.
like you've got captured attention for 90 minutes or however
Yeah.
long, um, so because it is, I think it's an interesting story, and it does obviously have more creative license, the way that we all contributed to it together. It's a group effort. So, yeah, I don't know. We can talk offline about that later.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. Okay. So any last thoughts and words for people who are on the fence and want to learn a little bit more and poke holes in Bitcoin, which I think everybody should? Do your own research. Don't believe any of us.
Yeah.
What would you say to folks who are listening to this, who want to learn a little bit more about the environmental parts, or obviously human rights? Go get Proof of Money. That's the best. So you guys have to get this book. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like what I try to tell people now, and it always alters as I learn more and see how people respond. But I say, first buy a little Bitcoin, just a little bit, right? Just you need
Yeah.
to see it, and you need to see what it's doing, and because metrics and numbers are important for us, it's helpful when it goes up, and it's going to be going up for the next couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
And then absolutely learn about it. And if you like short form content, that's great. It's all over the internet. There's great documentaries. There's great podcasts like yours. There's so many ways to learn about Bitcoin. But yes, that is also why I wrote the book, and probably why lots of others have written the book. I try to address every single piece of FUD and FOMO and criticism, as well as just explain what is it technically, what is it actually doing, and then what does that mean for us. If people aren't willing to learn, or they're too busy because they're, of course, because of the fiat problem. That's the irony. People are too busy to pick up a book and learn because of the fiat problem, yet it's the book that teaches you how to solve the fiat problem. And I would say get on Twitter. Twitter is a great, I've learned so much from Twitter and met so many great people like yourself.
I know, it's incredible. So many of my kids and other people in my life, they're like, oh my God, Twitter's so bad. It's awful. And I'm like, it depends on who's in your feed,
Right.
and anything can be awful anywhere. It's just,
Right.
who are you following? What are you clicking on? And so it'll start paying attention if you want to learn. But yeah, to me, that's the most I have learned. Obviously there's Nostr, but Nostr's another level of Bitcoiner folks. But yeah, I think Twitter's a great resource for people to get on to. And I think too, what I would love to invite people is, like, every Bitcoiner out there is so excited to share information. There's no dumb questions. There's no like, oh my gosh, you don't know what that is. Everyone's like super happy to try to help and support. And if they don't have the answer, I've found that someone will guide you and say, oh, go check this out instead, because I don't know the answer. So
yeah,
it's,
we're
to
all
me,
educators. I've noticed all Bitcoiners, regardless of what field they're in, they're educators.
Yeah. It's such a passionate group of humans. I feel like I still, every day I'm like, oh my gosh, I can believe it, but I'm like, wow, there's so many amazing people out there of all walks of life, all ages, all races, all politics, all religion. Bitcoin doesn't care about any of that. Like, so I just think it's interesting that it's this unifier.
Yeah.
And so it's magical. So
Is this released before Christmas or
I
the
will, if you
holidays?
want. Do you want it to be released before
Oh, no,
Christmas?
no, it doesn't. It's up to you. But well, I was just going to say to your audience, like, at least to the Bitcoiners, it's great to give Bitcoin as a gift. It
Yes.
really is the best because they learn. And I recently have been doing it in a new way. I've been giving it for years, and
Uh-huh.
I used to give it on the little USB drives, from CoinKite,
Uh-huh. Yep.
the ones that stick in the clock there.
Yep.
And then before I would like just send it, I'd have them download an app and send it. But I found the coolest creative way to do it, and which I've already done twice this year at Christmas parties, is I just get out a notebook, a piece of paper, and I write down 12 words. Now, what I've done ahead of time is I've gone to, some wallet, and I've set up a wallet with the 12 words. Now,
Okay.
right, so I know, and I have it. So I have a copy of this person's wallet on my phone. And I write down the 12 words on a piece of paper, just put it in a box. And when they get it, they're like, "What the heck is this?" And I just tell them, that's Bitcoin. Those words are the Bitcoin. That is your wallet. And they're like, "What?" And then we go to their phone and I help them download whatever app they want to. They punch it in, right? Import wallet, and boom, there it is. So I immediately delete it on mine, and now they have it. But they see that the words are just it. And I say, you can delete that app now, or you don't like it, or if you lose your phone, don't lose those words. Those are yours. And it's just, whatever. It's just $25-$50 because it's like those Secret Santa type
Sure.
things.
But that's like super powerful and profound. Like people still don't understand, and that's why I think when they think about like, oh, we're going to ban self-custody. And I'm like, bacon, 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 bacon,
Right.
like, how are you going to ban me from remembering those words, And so, um, it's a fear tactic, obviously. And so the
Yes.
more that we can learn about how this truly works and what it is and why it is, code and it's protected by free speech, we need to understand that as humans. And so, and we do still need to fight the FUD. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I love this idea. I'm gonna
It's
go
so
play around with
cool.
this.
Just
It's like,
last night, I went and I created 10 wallets with 12 different words, and I've got all the pieces of paper ready, just for different Christmas parties I'm going to, and I'm going to put those in boxes today. And those are them. I'm giving away these words, these little gifts, because
oh my God.
when they do it and they have to import it themselves, they suddenly know what the words are, and then they see it,
Yeah.
you know,
And they're
and
like,
then
that's it. That's all I have to do.
that's
And,
it.
and
This is
it's
your
like,
wallet, those words.
yeah. And then
Anyways.
it's like, okay, if you want to get all clever and do the multi-sig and the extra
Yeah, I tell them, I'm
passphrase,
like, look, once you get enough money
yeah,
in there, right now,
then
this
we'll
is
go to the
just
next
to
level.
play.
But
Yes.
it's the same thing. It's like you give somebody a $50 bill, right? They're like, this is so great, versus like, okay, I need to go put $5,000 or whatever into a
Yes.
bank or a vault or something like that. You're not going to go carry that around in your wallet. So people understand, obviously. This is what a fun entryway. I really like it. And I like that it's physical.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
type.
exactly.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Okay, I'm copying you, Terrence.
Yeah, it's fun. And the great thing is too, it's like, especially if it's a small amount and they don't care, you can open up your wallet and monitor and just see if they're still using it. Did they spend it? Did they put it up? Because it's like, I'm not going to steal their $25, but I
Right.
just want to protect them. Like, oh my God, I lost my words. Like, okay, here you go. But
No, that's a cool way though, because then you can still have follow up or like, hey, I
mhm.
noticed you didn't move this. Do you want to move it to somewhere else or whatever? You can still keep that
Right. Yeah, you should move
that
it to your
journey.
own words, right, that I don't have.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, that's super cool. Oh, I love it. This is so fun. Well, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so happy to see your face, and I can't wait. I've got 2 more chapters of Proof of Money. You guys, you have to get here. Where is it? You guys, I'm a big audiobook fan, so get
Um,
Proof of Money. It's amazeballs. And I was actually, as I was listening to it this morning, I was wondering, um, we should do a book club, like, and then
oh, that would be awesome.
you know what I mean, and like have
Yeah,
like do some Twitter Spaces or something, and then just talk about the books, and then
that's a great
like,
idea.
okay, everybody's got to go through 3 chapters this week or whatever. So that could be a fun way for all of us to go
That's a
talk about all,
fantastic idea. That's a
whether it's your
fantastic
book,
idea.
Lynn's book, all the new stuff that's coming out. I think it's cool
Yeah.
to talk about and then unpack and dissect a little bit and invite new people in to talk. So maybe let's schedule something.
That's a great idea. I love that.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, cool. All right, everybody. Thanks again, Terrence. So, Terrence, where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
Just at Twitter X at Proof of Money.
Awesome. And what about, should they go to your website?
Well, if they go to Proof of Money, they'll find my website. Everything's in my bio. Yeah, the
Okay,
link
cool.
tree. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely follow Terrence. Get his book, you guys. You're gonna love it. And whether you're an old timer or a new timer or a no timer, like get Proof of Money. It's so great. So, wishing you guys happy holidays. And again, thanks so much, Terrence, for joining us and sharing all of your wisdom and good vibes with everybody here. So, all right,
Thanks so
everybody,
much.
peace. You bet. Peace, love, and warm aloha. We'll see you next time. Mhm. Yay.